Hello for the 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time, using all three readings Wisdom 18, Hebrews 11, and Luke 12. And I titled this homily, I Came Up Empty. I Came Up Empty. Well, it's because I didn't know exactly what to talk about this week after reading the three readings, all three readings. And then I sort of decide, well, I don't have a whole lot to say. And here's why. Read them all. I normally read these readings on Wednesday and then sort of contemplate them or think about them on Wednesday and not on Thursday, and then also on Friday morning. And then sometime, usually early Saturday morning or late Friday night, I really get serious. What the heck are you going to say? I came up empty. And I'll tell you why. The three readings. First one, wisdom. Wisdom is a great book, but it seems like we're always talking about the same old thing. And when I read this part of wisdom, I felt as though, God has worked loud and clear in the Old Testament with the Jewish people early on. And he gave them power and saved them and gave them great leaders, and they had deep faith in him and so forth, commandments. And that was, Abraham was almost 2,000 years before Christ. And these people were a small group of people that became God's people, powerful people, and they overcame nations and kingdoms in the name of God Himself. Hmm. They seem to be pretty doggone effective. Well, what about today? I don't see all that affect coming down, that help coming down from heaven in today's world. Well, then I went and I read the book of Hebrews and talked about faith. Faith, hope, and charity. Faith. And faith is the realization of what is hoped for and evidence of everything that is not seen. Well, you can emphasize the not seen, and we still have hope for. And it seems like the movement is a snail pace movement in the history of the world. That's Hebrews. And I'm reading that 2,000 years after Christ and sort of 4,000 years after Abraham. Hmm. It's where we experience, it seemed like war after war after war. I grew up toward the end of the Second World War, and then the Korean War, and then the Vietnam War, and now the Russia War, and now the Israel's war. War, war, war. Violence, violence, violence. And it seems to be every day. And not just big wars like those wars. The definition of the world at peace is no war. But there's certainly a lot more to be done in the world than just not kill one another in warfare. Hmm. And it's not just these big world wars either. Doesn't it seem to you, or at least it seems to me, that it seems like every day in our country there's gun violence? Somebody's shooting somebody else and killing one or two or three or whatever. And it's wild. And boy, the TV news agents are right there, and it goes on till you're nauseated with it. What are we doing with guns and violence in our everyday? Just the other day, I was down to the Why? Pump it on the machine down there and so forth, watching TV and so forth. One of my lady friends comes in, she is next to me, she sits down and pumps the bicycle machine, and I said, "Oh, good, here, it's on TV. You're in time for you're in time for today's war. No, not war, but today's little war. Another shooting. There seems to be a shooting every day. And how far back does that go? It's hard to be hopeful. Let's do a little love. Let's do a little forgiveness. Let's do a little living in peace in normal times, everyday times. Think of this, or check this out. What we do with guns and violence and killings in our country, compare our country to Japan with guns and violence and killings. You just might be surprised that we could take care of or really reduce that violence in our country. It's been a long way since Cain and Abel, Cain kills Abel, and a long time since World War I and II and so forth. And it certainly is a common thing that every day someone seems to be shooting someone else. It doesn't have to be. Hmm. And then going to the gospel. The gospel, as I say, 2,000 years since Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ in the gospel says, "Well, sell your belongings and give alms, and love your neighbor and forgive." And not only thou shalt not kill with Moses and the Ten Commandments, but he who becomes angry with his brother or sister, stop it. Love, harmony, peace, ideal. That certainly remains an ideal. Well, there I'm back. What are you going to say to stop it? Or what are you going to say to make it according to living in the image and likeness of God? What does it say? Thou shalt not kill. What do you say to the readings? I'm sorry, but this week I came up empty. I don't know what just to say that makes it, oh, happy, beautiful, isn't everything wonderful? You know, why don't you just take those 3 readings and see what you come up with in today's world? I bet you do a better job than I can do because today I came up empty. Have a good day, peaceful day, a day without